Welcome to Life Science Solutions. I'm your host, Chris Adkins. Today, we're exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping the future of drug discovery and cancer treatment. My guest is Marcel Frenkel, CEO and co-founder of 1063 Therapeutics, a company at the cutting edge of using AI to tackle some of the toughest challenges in drug discovery and specifically oncology. Marcel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. You know, really to kind of jump right in and get into some of the specifics of what you guys are working on over at 1063, AI is obviously everywhere in the news, right? You have to live under a pretty big rock or in a pretty deep hole to not be hearing about AI, especially over the last maybe six months or so. But in our opinion, I mean, drug discovery is a really exciting frontier, right? I mean, you know, content generation and everyone's making funny pictures to share with their friends, and, you know, all the folks who spent, 10 years learning Photoshop really well are probably nervous. But drug discovery seems like a really exciting frontier to work on this on. So how are you guys, what's AI's use in kind of what you guys are working on, and how's that working over at 1063?
Yeah, so, most people's experience with AI really took off when they first used something like ChatGPT, right? That's, I think, when people's mind kind of got blown, right? So there was kind of this advancement, mostly academically, it can win a few games, it can do a few things. But it's when you ask it a question and it just writes something and you're like, oh, that isn't half bad. That's where I think a lot of people got excited. Now, that's a domain, that humans do very well. So the thing about drug discovery is that humans aren't great at it. So this is where it becomes really interesting about how do you deal with teaching a machine to do something where really humans aren't that great. Drug discovery success rates are at single-digit percentage for most indications. And this is a really hard problem. And contrary to, things like tell me about, what type of dogs are the best, where there's 500 people writing about it every day, and thousands of people commenting, and you can just get that content and learn from it. In drug discovery, the real challenge is the questions that we're most excited about are the hardest questions, right? Doing the easy stuff a little bit faster is something that I think AI is already having an impact on. But the truth is, the impact that you can have there is moderate. Because, the things that we're good at and we can just do really well, you're making that a little bit faster, a little bit better. That's obviously great, but it's not what everybody wants. When everybody imagines AI and drug discovery, we imagine this, new kind of capability to discover drugs, this new capability to advance medicine in a way that was impossible before. And that's really what we're focusing on at 1063. And this is a really challenging problem that I think is kind of forcing us to really think about what are the boundaries and how can you push these boundaries and how do you actually answer the really difficult questions. And at 1063, that's what we're focused on.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. I think about it as kind of what everyone is experiencing, all the, at least let's say business lay people, for lack of a better term, right? We're all experiencing this kind of small to medium impact of AI, but we're seeing the breadth of where it's used just so wide, right? Whether it's now Outlook prompts me on how to tweak an email to make it not terrible, right? Or proofing a Word document, or, I remember even just a couple years ago, right? We write a lot of technical documents, and we would have folks that would spend hours and hours formatting a 60-page, summary report, right? Or something like that. And that's just gone. And like that, right? But to your point, how do we get it to do things that we just can't do?
Yeah, so let me give you the example that we tend to give. And we either talk about fighter jets or we talk about cars.
Okay.
So which one do you want to talk about, the fighter jet or the car?
Fighter jets are cooler.
Okay, so fighter jets are cooler. Okay, so, now DARPA has this project where they developed this fighter jet that is fully autonomous.
Okay.
But let's think about that. So the way that you use reinforcement learning, how do you train a fully autonomous jet, right? There's one in the world. It's been adapted to be able to fly by itself. But think about it. If you just gave an AI a fighter jet, the first thing that it's going to do is blow the engine before the fighter jet takes off. because it doesn't know anything. So it's just going to do something really and destroy your fighter jet. Right? So there's this question about how do you train something on the hardest data where it's hard to acquire data. I'm going to give you the car example as well, just for classification, okay? So what AI does really well right now, and everybody gets super impressed, is that it drives.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, but not everybody, a lot of humans know how to drive.
Most.
Well, or at least most humans think they know how to drive, right? So that isn't that interesting, actually. Like, yeah, maybe you can be in the back, watching a movie or chilling, and the car can perform a little bit better, or maybe it's going to merge into traffic a little bit, especially if we can network cars, there's all that. But what you really want is the second before a high-speed impact, before you're going to get into an accident. That's when you want an AI to take the wheel. Most people have never experienced that.
Yeah.
Most people are going to panic. Most people are going to freeze. Most people are going to make the wrong decision. Very few drivers in that moment are going to do exactly the right thing in the right time. That's where you want an AI to do that. But how would you get the AI to do that, right? Are you going to destroy tens of thousands of cars to create
maybe even people?
To get the reinforcement learning to do that, right? So these are the difficult questions: is how do you actually train on the hardest data to acquire in the most important moments, right? So that's really in drug discovery. Where does that translate, right? How do we get to 1063?
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you a personal story. And the only thing that's special about this story is so many other patients have gone through this and so many families have gone through this. So when my mom got pancreatic cancer, the first thing we did was sequence her tumor. And sure enough, there was this list, right? These oncogenes, these drivers who very clearly were, making her disease progress. And at the time I was, in virology, this was many years ago now. And, I remember looking at them and going, oh, okay, we got a roadmap, right? Let's just give these drugs and we'll be done. So I went to doctor after doctor and they all looked at us and said, hey, there's nothing we can do. There's no drugs for these. Because what happened was all those driver mutations fell under this class of undruggables. This is a class of targets that conventional methods have been incapable of developing drugs to. So when that first happened, I was like, man, we got unlucky. What are the odds that all of these mutations are going to be undruggable? Well, turns out 80% of the proteins in the human body are undruggable. So we're trying to address this, human medicine without being able to interact with 80% of the proteins in the system. You see, that's going to be a problem really quickly.
Yeah.
So now you have this problem, right? The undruggables by definition are low data, because if they were high data, if people knew how to drug them, they wouldn't be undruggable. So you have a definition problem, right?
Yeah.
It's where low data, hard target to generate data for.
Yep.
How do you get AI to do this?
Yeah.
That's the problem that we've been focused at 1063 to get to, right? That's the second before the accident. That's the fighter jet that needs to learn. It's how do you go after these really difficult to generate data points? How do you actually train a model that can be predictive in a space where humans don't know how to get to? And that's really been the focus of 1063.
Yeah. So, from a nuts and bolts perspective, and dumb this down to at least just a, mechanical engineer, right? So not a deep dive computer science, not an AI expert, right? But how do you practically do that, right? Because everyone thinks to the, like you said, the data set answer, right? Or it's like whenever you're teaching folks how to program, for the first time and you teach them how to sort data, right? And their first answer is immediately, well, if I have 100 points in a data set and I want to sort them, I go through them until I find the lowest one and I move it to the front, then the next lowest one. And yes, that works. And it's terribly crude and inefficient. And, I'm like dumbing this down way below your level. Thanks for tuning in to Life Science Solutions, presented by Kymanox and produced by Walk West. For more insights like this, subscribe and follow Life Science Solutions wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time as we continue exploring what it takes to bring life science innovation to life, because patients deserve better.